Hey guys, Furum here, and today I'm going to be testing the Ferrari SF90 Stradale in multiplayer in Asphalt 9 at Golden Max. And we have another car that is extremely easy to drive, but not very fast, and this one is almost like a clone of the SENNA. It has very close to the same kind of speed, it drives very similarly with okay-ish acceleration, it's got pretty good nitro efficiency, but its handling is definitely its best part with being over 90. That's not quite as good as that of the SENNA, but it's still very high, and you're really not going to be able to notice a difference in most cases. I'm sure you've noticed that most, if not all, of the Ferraris added in this update are along these same lines, being very agile cars, but not being very fast, and therefore not really being able to be kings of their classes, but still being pretty good for multiplayer. I mean, the F40 and the 599XX Evo, neither of them are really kings of C-Class. The 599XX Evo is pretty close, still not quite up there, but they're both very good multiplayer cars. That's just as an example, two cars that a lot of people were able to get. I unfortunately was not able to get the 599XX Evo. I fell just out of the top 10 in Tier 1. I think I actually forgot to play around. That was entirely my mistake, but in any case, I was not able to get that in the packs, unfortunately, but it wasn't really that important of a car for me to get anyway, and I didn't want to spend tokens on it because I am saving as many tokens as I can for the next update. I told myself that I was going to spend basically nothing in this update, so almost no credits and almost no tokens, so I could prepare for the next update, which is going to be bringing a new drive syndicate. Hopefully it will be a good one like the Rimac one. I'm kind of expecting it to be more in the middle of the Jesko and Rimac one, because the Rimac one was very generous and the Jesko one was very not generous. It's like the best and the worst events in Asphalt 9 were both drive syndicates, which is kind of funny. So I'm kind of expecting this one to be positioned in the middle, and I'm honestly not really expecting it to be a new king of the game. And the reason for that is we just got the Tuatara very recently. Gameloft usually does not add new kings of the game all that quickly, and we have seen with the Rimac that car wasn't really the king of the game. It maybe was on certain tracks, so we could be seeing some car that is really good in some aspects, but I wouldn't suspect it to be a new king overall. I still predict that it will be better than all the cars added in the Ferrari update, so probably still good to keep saving up your tokens, especially since the special event for the SF90 Stradale is basically no better than the one for the F8 Tributo. Probably will be worse, in fact, given that it's an S-Class car, whereas the F8 Tributo was only an A-Class car. We've again got a ton of Ferraris in it, almost all the ones added in this update as well, including the 488 challenge thingy, whatever that is, so likely we will see an event for that car come out before the SF90 Stradale event ends. So I recently took part in the ESL Mobile Open Season 6, co-hosting it for the third time, so I have now co-hosted half of them, which is pretty cool, having done the first one, then taking a break for a little while, and then coming back to do the fifth and sixth one. It was a lot of fun. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but you can watch the replay of it on ESL's Twitch, ESL Mobile Open's YouTube channel, and the Asphalt channel where it was actually streamed to this time, so that's pretty cool. I'll put a link to one of those in the description, but I will say this one had some of the cleanest and best racing that I have seen from any season yet. I really think that these players are getting very confident in the event, seeing some returning faces as well as some new members, and it was just a very good event all around, and I'm sure we'll see some of them return in the future as well. This race was a very close battle against Orange and Knight, both of which were members of 1%, and I face Orange again in a couple of more races, both of them actually on Rome, which is a very good track for this car, given that just like the rest of the Ferraris in this update, it can drift very well. Now, I know some of them may not be quite as good. Some people are complaining about the drifts of the two C-Class ones, but those get better as you upgrade them. Like, if you've driven them at max, they're better than at stock. I mean, even in these S-Class ones, they're going to be better at max than at stock. So it really matters when you're talking about a car's drifting radius to specify the star count of it, because some cars can drift a lot better at max than at stock. One big example would be the Lamborghini Huracan, which, as you all know, drifts pretty well at max. You know, it's not the very best, but at stock it was actually kind of terrible. So if you got the Huracan at low stars, for example, and you told someone that it had bad drifting radius, well, they might take that to think that it has bad side drifting radius at max. And I know that since the Huracan, more cars have had this. Before the Huracan and cars like that, cars generally drove pretty similarly to how they did at max and when they did at stock. So you could basically expect just a slightly better all-around version of the car. But nowadays, there's some cars that get very much better in certain aspects, and I think we will probably see more of that. That's one thing that happened in Asphalt 8 as well. You know, when the game started out, cars didn't have very big stock to max per rank increase, and they were pretty predictable about what they would do. But then came along some cars like the Camaro and the Homage, and then like the SLK, which completely turned that on its top. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some of that in Asphalt 9. I don't think we'll see it quite to the extreme as we did in Asphalt 8, because Asphalt 9 is supposedly like more realistic in terms of the cars, at least it's stock, and I think though that they would keep that a bit more in Asphalt 9 than in Asphalt 8, because they also seem to be a little bit more selective about what kinds of cars that they add to the game. Like, they just added the Dodge Tomahawk recently, a really crazy bike, and so I really think that they're trying to have some fun with Asphalt 8 before it dies for good. Which is sad to say, but I don't really see anything else happening at this point unless they can really revive it in some way. Although, again, I don't think that's gonna happen. As much as you all know, I would love it to, because that was the game that made my channel what it is today. And here, though, we have another very close race against Orange and someone named Chick Hicks, which is pretty funny. And we're all very, very close coming up toward the finish line. I catch up a little bit closer to Orange. He beats me by a slight bit here, and it was just like all three of us crossing the finish line almost the same time, kind of like the Ford v Ferrari movie. Quite a good one if you guys haven't seen it. Now we're on to a race on Nile River, and this race had one of the most hectic beginnings of any race that I played in this season. We got 4 people, which was very unusual for being into Elite League, which I was at this point, but we all like landed the exact same place. I landed on top of a couple people, didn't get knocked down throughout any of this time, even though this guy had shockwave and bumped me a couple of times. It was kind of crazy. I took a low ramp here, fully expecting to get landed on. Thankfully, it didn't happen, and we pulled out just slightly ahead. Now, in cars that are more agile, I know it's generally better to go through the pyramid, and so that is what I did in this case, and I really do think it helped a little bit, because when I came out, they were not quite as close to me as they were before. Now, this is only useful if you're able to keep as high of a top speed through the pyramid as you could going the other way. So in cars that have very high top speed, like the Jesko or whatever, that way would not be good, because of the big sharp turn in the pyramid, you can't keep as much speed, whereas going the other way, you could keep a lot more speed. So it really depends there on what kind of car that you have, which is definitely something to keep in mind across all the tracks as well. There's some routes that are better in some sorts of cars and other routes that are better in others. While there may not be too many of those, that would be a pretty cool thing actually to see in some more tracks, because now people are able to figure out tracks and the best routes and everything in like the first day, because we've got some extremely skilled players. I just think it would be cool if there were some routes that were somehow like faster in some sorts and other routes that are somehow faster in other sorts, like some routes that maybe had some more twisty parts and maybe less nitro, but were technically shorter, and then other ones that were maybe longer but had some more nitro and were straighter, so the more top speed cars would be better there. Just make a cool dynamic, I think, and would make it so that not everybody was following nearly the exact same path every time. Also, I'd like to mention that I will be uploading a new Asphalt 9 music video at 36,000 subscribers. We are only about a couple hundred subscribers away at this point. I've created the music and everything. I've just got the video left to make, and I know you guys are going to like it. It's going to bring back some memories for you guys that have been on the channel for a few years at this point. Some of you may already be able to guess what it is, and you may think, yep, I knew it whenever it comes out, because it was based on a suggestion in one of my streams. If you know it, you know it. The Ferrari in yellow went through that section better than I did, but then I again shockwaved over that section, allowing me to catch up. I tell you, shockwaving over that section of track has given me more wins than almost any other little thing that I have done on any other track. It's almost like a magic trick at that part, because hardly anybody else seems to do it. Although now that I've talked about it in a lot of my videos, probably more people people will do it, but I'm sure there's more things like that to be discovered. Now for our final race, we've got a close one with Ziz and RPM Rain, who I faced a lot in the past few seasons. Always a pleasure to race him. And I raced Ziz a couple of times recently as well, so now time for my general review about this car. Just like the rest of the Ferraris, it's easy to drive, but unfortunately not a king, especially this one, having such low top speed for Class S, which is really kinda crazy. And something that's kind of flown under the radar with this car that I'm surprised not more people have talked about is that it actually goes faster with Perfect Nitro than with other ones. With Perfect Nitro, it goes 242 miles per hour. With other Nitros, it goes only 232. That's something I actually noticed pretty late here, and so I was not really able to use that to its full potential. But yeah, I mean, the season has a few days left, so I'll definitely be taking that into some more consideration in the final days of the season. And we come up to the end of this final race, getting some really good turns up to the finish line and taking the victory. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like the video if you have enjoyed, and consider subscribing for more Asphalt and other games content. And I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.